So again, my name is MaryEllen. I am an alcoholic. My sobriety date is April Fools of 2018, and that is a relapse date. That is the day I actually last took a sip of alcohol. It was on an Easter Sunday, and I was dating a guy who pissed me off, so I went and drank something out of a liquor bottle, thinking that would solve a problem. My original date was October of 2017. And if you're familiar with Northern California, that's the month we burned here in Sonoma County. Um, and so my sobriety date came right after the fires. But that Easter Sunday, when I let people, places, and things run me, I took another sip and I hid that for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 years in AA. I didn't tell anybody about it because I didn't get drunk, so I didn't think it counted. I didn't think it mattered. And so I just went on on my merry way. I was sitting at a Big Book Comes Alive here at our Alano Club, and we were working on the 4-step, and this was um, right about COVID and the world shut down. Um, and we were talking about it, and it dawned on me, and like, oh my, I might have relapsed that day. And so I prayed on it a little and decided to change my sobriety date. And when I went to my sponsor thinking I was telling her this great revelation, and she's like, okay, I don't care. It's like, what do you mean you don't care? She goes, it's your sobriety date, honey. She goes, it matters to you. It doesn't matter to me. But let's keep working on it and let's keep working your program. So how did I get here? Like I said quickly in my intro, was that I did a lot of years of drinking and I never knew I was an alcoholic. But looking back on it, I guess when I took my first sip at 15, the ease and comfort that it quickly gave me should have told me right away I was an alcoholic. My dad was, and his mom was. And although my mom raised me from New York originally, shout out to Long Island, that's where I lived. Um, my mom took me as far as she could across the country. I still ended up being an alcoholic, just like my dad, right? So there's that. And I've got a normie mom who did everything she could in her power as a single parent to give me the best life possible. And we looked great on the outside. Like, you would never imagine my mom worked 2 jobs to put me into a good school, and that she shopped at a thrift store and bought my clothes new so that I didn't look different than my classmates. Um, you just didn't know what was going on behind the scenes because we looked really good. But inside, I felt like crap. And then once I learned about alcohol made me feel better on the outside, or, at least I felt it did, right? Made my insides feel better too. So I just kind of led my whole life that way. Whether it was a good day I would drink, it was a bad day I'd drink. I had a lot of mental health illness. And I think that's what got me here in the program, was my mental health illness. But I was really an alcoholic, not to discount that I do have mental health illness, but I think I just thought I was crazy. I just thought that, crazy people go home and drink themselves to blackout and wake up in the morning and drink again. That's got to be an insanity. I didn't know it was an insanity because I was an alcoholic. Um, so let's see. Went to college, got married, uh, divorced that husband, got another one, divorced that one, had a house, had a car, had 2 cars, had a boat. We traveled. I gave it all up for alcohol. And it sounds really silly, but it was easier for me to sit at home and drink alone than to maintain all of those things, because it required me to maintain relationships with my husband after a certain period of time. We were together 15 years. Like, that's a lot of maintenance. And it was easier for me to be drunk every night than to talk to him anymore. And so our marriage dissolved, right? Couple bad days at work, I go out and take a long lunch. And when they decide to reprimand me at work, I decide to never come back again. And I walk off a government job of 13 years. I just continue to make really bad decisions. I want to say it looks so much clearer now that it was alcoholic mind the whole way, thinking I could just run everything. If everyone just, I was the kind of person at work that would like count the cars in the parking lot when I arrived, to see if who I arrived before, because I was such a great employee that,
Mhm.
like me arriving, 2 minutes early meant that I could take an extra long break or lunch. You know, it was always this game I would play. And that's just kind of how my disease like manifested in other parts of my life. I went through some really bad times, like many of us do, and the answer was always alcohol. So when I got here, my best thinking with all of my pretty things, like I'd done all these great jobs and I have a college degree and all of that, my option was to either live in my car with my dog and my 2 cats or to move back into my mom's home, who was the only person who was still talking to me, basically. And that was a tough decision to make. Like, I look back and laugh, but I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just live in my car and I can handle this. And I wasn't handling any of it. But came into AA and I found this really happy woman. If you meet me today, you might not know how depressed I was when I walked in the doors 6 years ago. I was sad. I was crying. I couldn't figure anything out. I had a stack of bills at home with a bunch of red lettering on the front of them. And I was, getting my food from a food bank, and I don't know what the hell was going on. I was still thinking maybe I might just live in my car with my dog and my 2 cats because it had to be easier than this, right? But no, what I found out, not drinking every day was easier. Going to meet with a sponsor who at that time met with me a couple days a week because I was an intensive outpatient program, that was easier. And my sponsor tricked me into service. Like my first meeting, she signed me up to, or, had me raise my hand to wash coffee mugs. And next thing I know, I'm making coffee at a 6 a.m. meeting for people. I don't even drink coffee. But it got me to meetings, and you all were so gracious and kind to me, just letting me sit there and cry and probably complain about things that had nothing to do with AA. And you all may have seen what my part was in it, but you let me just sit there anyway. And it's what I needed at the time. I found AA to be one of the softest places ever to grow up in. And I know that's not everyone's experience here, but for me, it is. Like, I needed to grow up. I may have looked like an adult on the outside, but I'm not. And it's one of the reasons I'm involved in our SWACYPAA is because it's also young at heart. And I feel so young. I'm not 6, but I'm sure not in my 50s. So maybe somewhere in my 20s. I don't know. I feel pretty young. My body sometimes aches differently, but I used to wake up every day being so mad at whatever it was out there. I didn't even have a concept of a higher power, but I was mad at it every freaking day for making me wake up again because I didn't want to be here anymore. And I thought, well, hopefully it would be over by 40, and it wasn't. So what the heck now? Like, crap. You mean, I'm still here. And I think that was part of it too. I had tried to make a final decision to this temporary problem that I face. And that's how I got into my, my intensive outpatient program, which tricked me into going to AA. And I'm really thankful to that care provider who told me to go to a women's meeting. What did I do? I listened to my sponsor. I asked her questions. And then when she gave me suggestions, I followed it to the best that I could. Not everything worked, but when she told me to go to 3 meetings a week, I did it. She said, find a women's meeting, a speakers meeting, 12 and 12, and a book study. And I did. And it took a while for things to feel a little better. But I can say I've had a pink cloud and I love it. And I've maybe fallen sideways off it, but I haven't really lost it. And I feel that's because I have continually been in service. I haven't been without a position of service since I was 2 weeks sober. I have been without sponsees for 2 years, and I'm so excited that this one sitting next to me has invited me to go through this journey with her, because that is probably one of the biggest joys, is going through the book with another person. And I've also taken time away from my own sponsor, which was pretty risky, I want to say. And I am not going to suggest I do that again. And I'm going to be meeting with another sponsor this week myself, so I have found that all those service is so rewarding, and usually gets me out of that self-pity mode that I get into, because I'm really good at that. It's one of my favorite character defects to wallow in. But I just hear my sponsor's voice in my head. It's like, well, who else can you call out to if you're feeling that sad? Who else can you reach out to? And I always try to. Sometimes it's just me getting in the car and taking a drive to the coast. But anyway, I am so thankful for this program of recovery. I went back to school. I got a job, and this job actually pays my bills, and I can pay all my bills on my own for the first time as a grown-up woman. I am fully self-supportive. And again, thank this program, thank my higher power and the women who came before me, and even the men. Give a shout out to you guys too. So I've had male mentors that are appropriate, right? Find your appropriate male mentors. And men, same thing. They're healthy people, healthy relationships, but some of us are sicker than others in these rooms. But I still look to you today on how I handle things and how I will handle things. I think that's about all I want to say, other than I am so thankful, and I'm so happy to be here, and I appreciate your time this evening, everyone.